Call us back into order. Before we get started, anyone who was not here previously that has not already been sworn in, would you please rise and raise your right hand if you're going to testify and you have not been sworn in? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is truthful and accurate under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of Florida? Please be seated.
Case number 2207 Clematis Street, CE 200600005.
Special Magistrate, good morning. We are here in relation to a sidewalk cafe permit revocation. Respondent is an owner of Lenora's Restaurant at 207 Clematis Street. What we have here is the mayor revoked the sidewalk cafe permit on May 28th, and that occurred as a result of an incident on May 22nd overnight to May 23rd. At that time, the restaurant Lenora's was observed by our police officers to be in violation of governor's orders as well as mayor's orders and Department of Business and Professional Regulation mandatory regulations in regards to social distancing, causing a threat to the health, safety, life, and welfare of the patrons as well as the citizens of West Palm Beach. And in that respect, the revocation was sent by letter and hand-delivered to the restaurant. After that revocation letter, which included an immediate cease and desist of the sidewalk cafe, that was done on 5/28 in the daytime, and then at night on the same 5/28 as well as 5/29, officers again observed that the sidewalk cafe was still outside the restaurant. Nothing had been removed and patrons were still being served. We're here today to ask you to uphold the revocation, and we have today for you witness testimony, body-worn camera, photographs, and some additional fact testimony. That being said, I don't know if respondent wants to do a small opening. Otherwise, I'll bring on my officers.
Sir, can you tell me your name, please?
Hi, my name is Angelo Benante. I own Lenora's Restaurant, 207 Clematis Street. I want to start off by just apologizing to the city and to the police officers if there was chaos going on at the restaurant at that Friday night. We have been closed for 6 weeks. We had just opened last Monday, the week prior, so we were the last restaurant to open on the street due to the COVID. Since that time, we've been following the mandated state laws given down, 6 feet apart, our tables, and also 50% occupancy. At this time right now, I don't believe that the punishment that was handed down to us on Thursday, week after, was just without any warning or communication from the mayor's office. They just came to us and literally revoked our license. Since we've opened, we brought back 50 employees. We just opened lunch on Monday, brought back another 10 employees. We have 62 employees on staff at this time. Since this past weekend, since our cafe was revoked, just to kind of put it in perspective, since the city shut us down last year to the road, we were down about 70%. This weekend, we lost about 72 reservations due to outdoor seating. And we were basically down about 96% from last year's numbers, just to put it in perspective. It's unsustainable without outdoor seating in this time. So I want to apologize again. Obviously, safety is our number one concern. Been here for a long time, and I believe that the actions that our supporting customers came in supporting us after opening, it was a little overwhelming. And this happened at This happened at like 1 a.m. in the morning. So it was, inside our restaurant, there was only 50%. We did have people not entering. Unfortunately, the crowd was in front, The officers did what they had to do by telling me to disperse the crowd. I did what I can, but it was on the city. I mean, I went there, I lowered the music.
Let me hold this for a second.
Yeah.
What is the city asking me to do in this case?
The city is asking you to uphold the revocation of the sidewalk license. We sent him a letter revoking that revoking the permit, and Lenore's has appealed.
I mean, typically, code magistrates enforce existing code provisions. Is there a code provision at issue here? I mean, if there's a question about the mayor's discretion to do that, it strikes me as beyond the scope of my authority. I have no authority to order the mayor to do anything.
Well, our chapter 78, dealing with sidewalk cafes, indicates that an appeal is to the special magistrate.
Let me look up that section.
Sorry, let me get there. Chapter 78, 350, sub A, all appeals from the mayor's decision to revoke or suspend a permit shall be to the special magistrate in accordance with the procedures set forth in Chapter 26, Article 2 of the Code, which is our code enforcement.
Do you have a copy of that code section?
I believe I do. One moment, please. I'm trying to see if I have an extra copy.
I can make a copy next door if I need to.
Thanks. So who brought this action? Did you bring it as an appeal from the mayor's decision?
It's been a little confusing how this has all generated, but it was a letter that I received from the mayor, and then I just went through the proper channels to try to get our seating back. As I mentioned, it's unsustainable for us to even open our doors without outdoor seating during this time. I do want to make a note that they had mentioned that I believe the day after we received the letter, that we didn't remove our tables. That is correct. We didn't remove the tables, but we did remove all the chairs. We didn't have anybody sitting outside. Since we were able to reopen, we had actually issued more tables and chairs. And we actually ended up having like 16 tables outside across the walkway. At that time, when they came, we knew we couldn't have anybody sitting outside, and we didn't. But we did have tables. We didn't really have any place to put them. Then the officer came to me and mentioned to me that we weren't allowed to have even tables outside. So at that point, we rented a van and proceeded moving all the tables to the back of the alley, and then getting them out with a van. It wasn't really clear what was and what wasn't. It was just outside seating, so I just assumed you can't serve, and we didn't serve.
So basically, if I understand the situation here, you reopened, you had an enthusiastic reaction to reopening, which involved more people than was probably consistent with the state and or governor's orders, and in response, the mayor revoked your sidewalk cafe. Am I,
That sounds
is
better.
that essentially correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, under code section 78-345N, it says the mayor may order the immediate removal or relocation of all or parts of a sidewalk cafe in emergency situations or for safety considerations without notice. And as the city attorney correctly observed, it does say here, the appeal shall be placed. Appeals from the mayor's decision to revoke or suspend a permit shall be to the special magistrate in accordance with Chapter 26, which is code enforcement. Doesn't say what the standard of the appeal is. Is it abuse of discretion? Has the city ever had one of these before?
I apologize, I do not know. I've only been here a year and a half, and I don't know.
No, in the past year and a half.
Well, at least not in the last year and a half. You're correct.
I mean, I don't think the, I mean, I don't think the intent of this provision is for a magistrate to put his or her judgment in place of the mayor. I suspect at best this would have to be an abuse of discretion. I don't know, let me think on that, and if you want to present any testimony, then while I'm thinking about what the legal standard is here.
Yes, I'd like to go ahead and bring up our officers very quickly.
Morning.
Sir, would you please state your name?
It's Officer Christopher Fisher.
And how long have you been with the City of West Palm Beach Police Department?
Be 2 years now.
And you've gone through the police academy?
That's correct.
And are you familiar with concepts such as crowd control and disbursement of peoples?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you just put that mic a little closer?
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Did there come a date when, approximately May 22nd, when you responded or were at Lenora's on 207 Clematis?
Yes.
And can you describe for us what you observed and what actions you undertook that night?
We were out walking the city blocks, checking on the restaurants, checking on the crowd control. We approached Lenora's, and we could see that there was approximately 100 people on the exterior of the business. It had overtaken the sidewalk and was spilling into the street. On the inside of the business, it was standing room only. Again, there was another 50 to 75 persons. Nobody was seating. The lights were all dimmed down, dark. There were neon lights, a live DJ being, presenting music. It wasn't operating in the realm of a sit-down restaurant as the other businesses were.
How many people did you observe outside?
Between the door, the sidewalk, out to the street, there was approximately 100 people.
And were they in violation of the social distancing requirements as you understood them at the time?
Yes, there was no spacing in between them. They were all crowded. It was really defined right in front of the actual business out to the street. There were multiple violations at that time as far as open containers, no social distancing, things like that.
Sir, where in relation to the bar were people?
The bar was operating. There were people standing, lying in the bar. Like I said, on the inside, all you could see was standing room only of persons, but the entire bar wraps around the west side of the establishment, and it was full.
And did you take some footage with your body-worn camera, or was that Mr.
I did.
Mr. Clark? That was you?
No, yes, I
Okay.
turn on the camera to document the exterior and inside.
We do have two brief 2- and 3-minute body-worn camera videos to show.
Let's take a look.
The first 30 seconds of every video does not have sound because of the video is buffering. That's in the design of the videos, so you'll hear it after 30 seconds.
And this is actually Officer Garcia's video. That's me standing in the street right now.
Officer Garcia could not be here today. I understand that the officer is involved with maybe some of the protest activity. could not be.
Is this video a fair and accurate representation of what you saw at that night?
It is.
722.
My camera's also rolling at the same time.
Go ahead.
Take Narcissus, because everything else is blocked off. Showing how everything else is like not doing this, and then show them this. It's over.
We do have one more with similar footage.
So the voice we heard on there, was that Officer Garcia?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
723 out of Lenore, reference to the case number you pulled earlier.
This is your body cam?
Yes, this is my body cam.
What's functionally 51 to that also?
Hey, tell the lieutenant to come in off Narcissus so he can pull right up here.
722 is 212.
Tell him to take Narcissus to Madison.
Go ahead. Take Narcissus, because everything else is blocked off.
So Officer Fisher, at that time, did you then turn over the investigation or the incident to your superior?
I did.
And who was that?
Sergeant Clark.
I'd like to call Sergeant Clark.
Do we have an opportunity to cross-examine the officer?
You can ask questions if you have them.
Thank you. Stephen Cohen on behalf of Mr. Abenante. Officer Fisher, did you go into the location, into the bar, restaurant?
No, I only walked up to the door, and that was prior to this video.
Okay. So
Sir,
there's
can
no-
you speak into the microphone when you ask your questions? I'm sorry.
Sorry. There's no video from inside from your vantage point, correct?
No, there was actually a still photo which showed on the interior.
All right. And the video is a little dark, you'd agree, correct?
Not dark to me, it's a little hazy.
Okay. And your testimony is there were 100 people between the door and the sidewalk right there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you could see 100 people, count them, right there?
That's what I approximated.
Okay. And I saw that you took out measuring for volume, it appeared, right?
That's correct.
And that was to see if there was a noise violation, correct?
Yes, so we use an app on the
I
phone
understand.
just as a baseline, not
There
as
wasn't
our...
any though, correct?
Yes, there was. But
Okay, did you
again,
cite them for that?
no, sir. We go back to the station to get an actual issued noise meter. But again, at that particular time, we weren't looking to hit him with violations. We were just attempting to disperse the crowd.
And being that you were so concerned with the social distancing, you in a uniform would have more authority and people would listen to an officer rather than just somebody in civilian clothes that says they're the manager or owner. Wouldn't you agree with that?
It's debatable, sir.
You wouldn't agree with it?
Sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't.
Okay. If you come in uniform, under the color of office, they're going to listen to somebody in a uniform as an order.
If I was given directions, yes, sir.
Okay. And you didn't attempt to do that at all, did you?
No, sir. We were attempting to mitigate
Okay.
the entire
I have
situation.
nothing further.
Okay. Thank you. Just in response quickly to what was just asked, our 78-345 sub P, P as in Paul, the permittee, so the person holding the sidewalk cafe permit, the permittee shall use positive action to assure that its use of the sidewalk in no way interferes with sidewalk users or limits their free unobstructed passage. So I would just say in response very quickly that it's the owner or manager of the establishment who has the affirmative opportunity to help disperse their own patrons and not rely upon the city to do that for them.
And I would briefly reply that there's no evidence that indicated that Mr. Abenante did not try to do that, and whether or not people were listening, he did lower the music and complied as much as he could. As to the sidewalk being distracted or without ways to walk by, clearly 2 in the morning, there were no passerbys that appeared to be obstructed.
Calling off Sergeant Clark. Would you please state your name?
Christopher Clark?
And are you employed with the Police Department of City of West Palm Beach?
Yes.
And how long have you been employed with them?
It'll be 14 years in August.
You've gone through the police academy?
Yes.
Did there come a time when you were at Lenora's on the evening or overnight of May 22nd and May 23rd?
Yes.
And what is it that you observed, and what was your activity there that night?
I was with Officer Fisher when we made our way eventually over to Lenora's, which is in the 200 block of Clematis Street. As we approached, it's just like what you heard from Officer Fisher. There was a live DJ stand playing some music. They had some neon lights, and the lights were off inside. There was people congregating outside to where they had their outdoor tables, spilling onto the street about a foot or two. And inside, it was there was a crowd standing from the bar back about a couple feet. They were standing, I guess you could say, shoulder to shoulder would be one description. And that was basically it.
Did you go in the bar, sir? Did you go in the restaurant?
So I'm 6'7", and when I approached about the entrance, and I was able to see inside. If you asked Lieutenant Bissett, he probably would have had to go inside to see.
He's 5'3" for the record, I believe.
And did you have any conversations or discussion with an owner or manager at the restaurant?
Yes.
And can you describe that interaction?
So the first interaction, when we first got there, I kind of assessed what was going on, and I was running through, the governor's orders as to what I was seeing and seeing what the differences were. And eventually, once I got my head together on what I had to tell Mr. Abenante, I was able to get a hold of him. We had a discussion for about 15, 20 minutes on the first conversation, kind of going over the issues at hand. Mr. Abenante explained that he wasn't warned prior to this, and I can understand where he was coming from. So we had to do other checks at other restaurants. So I explained to him we'll be back in approximately about a half hour, and hoping that this would be resolved when we get back. So we went on our checks. And eventually, when we made our way back, the issue was not resolved. So I contacted the shift commander, Lieutenant Bissett, to see if maybe he can help have some influence with the business owner, Mr. Abenante. Later, when Lieutenant Bissett arrived, we had a conversation which lasted, we were there for, I don't know, somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour, I'd say, and we're able to eventually get the crowd to kind of move on to comply with the order to a degree.
How long did that take?
I'd have to guesstimate, but I'd say we were probably there somewhere between the second time, probably somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour.
Officer Clark, and you said that you were able to get them to pretty much dissipate the crowd, correct?
Sergeant Clark, but
Congratulations. No.
thank you. What was the question?
The question again is, you were able to get them to dissipate the crowd?
You have to speak into the mic or
I'm
it
sorry,
doesn't pick
I'm
up.
used to. You helped dissipate the crowd? You or other officers?
So the way it was understood from me, and this is through an email chain through my superiors, and I believe it was the city attorney, Kim Rothenberg, was that...
With all due respect, just a yes or no, did
I help? No.
Did you and other officers help dissipate?
No.
So ultimately, Mr. Abenante did by lowering the music and other things that you had asked him to do?
Yes.
Okay. I have nothing further. Thank you, Sergeant Clark.
Were there times when you had asked the owner or manager to help disperse the crowd or to do other things to resolve the issue, and did he appear reluctant? Did he successfully do any of the things that you asked him to do?
Yeah, so there was times, and that might have been while we were out there for a while, where we would ask him to comply with the order, and he would say, that he would, and to give him a minute, and there would be a period of time that would go by and nothing was accomplished. So.
Okay. Thank you. Any further?
Nothing.
Thank you,
Call-
Sergeant.
Call Lieutenant Bissett, please.
We would stipulate to Lieutenant Bissett's testimony that it's going to be substantially similar as to Sergeant Clark and Officer Fisher, as well as the video is the best evidence anyway, to speed things up.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. In addition to the testimony, we do have composite exhibits to submit. And we have an additional quick testimony from our code supervisor, Mitch Posner, if I can call up Mitch Posner now.
Please do.
Used to it. Mitch Posner, Code Enforcement Supervisor. Was not involved in any of the events that transpired, in case anybody wants to ask that. Just here regarding basically code history for this particular business. The business was first licensed in April of 2014. Since that time, has been cited 11 additional times, not including this particular incident. 5 of those were for noise violations, having been
An
involved.
object to relevance.
If I can proceed, I'll get there.
It's an objection. Yes.
Tell me what the reason for this is.
Special Magistrate, I believe that he will talk about specifically one violation, but also being quasi-judiciary. I think there's latitude to let him speak for a couple minutes on the history of the property.
Well, it's quasi-judicial, but I don't know that we want to use past bad acts as necessarily a proof of the current acts. I mean, there has to have some relevance to this proceeding.
Okay. Just go with the one that you were.
Which one?
So for the record, that would be sustained as to relevance.
Well, I'm waiting to see what they want to do here.
Right.
If you want me to, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, the only
Then
thing
yes,
of note was...
Sustained.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
In that case, the only thing of note was the, one of those 11 citations was for no sidewalk cafe, which they
Objection.
started before it even...
Same. It has nothing to do with what we're here on today.
Well, let me ask you this. Was the mayor aware of the history here?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I don't know what, whether he was aware of that or not.
All right, then I'm gonna sustain the objection.
Thank you.
Okay.
Questions later.
Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and submit a composite exhibit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This composite Exhibit A consists of the mayor's letter of May 28, 2020, of revoking the sidewalk cafe permit, the March 9th, 2020 Governor's Executive Order, Declaration of Emergency 2052, the City of West Palm Beach, March 17th, 2020 Declaration of Emergency and the extension in place currently, the incident report of 5/22 overnight to 5/23, photographs of what was observed on that incident, at that incident, the Department of Business and Professional Regulation mandatory regulations, the Governor's Order 2123, a copy of the Sidewalk Cafe permit, and a copy of the Governor's Order 2112. Very briefly, I have an Exhibit B, which is the discussion of the 528 and 529 visits back to the property, still having the Sidewalk Cafe up. Those include the 528 report and the 529 report, as well as photos.
It's okay. Thank you.
I think I have to, if I can show you those,
Mhm.
can I get a copy to you right after?
Sure.
Because I don't
That's okay.
know why I don't have one for him.
Okay. Can I just ask him a
Sure,
question?
sure.
Is it down the other side?
Do you have any objections to these documents?
Not at this time. Oh, okay, that's okay.
See how the chairs are made? That's a city, that doesn't ours.
Right.
That's pt3 next door. But we left the tables so
Right.
I'd like to submit the, as Exhibit C, the body-worn camera, just so that we're trying to keep things organized here. I have Exhibit D of our Section 78-345N, which indicates the mayor may order the immediate removal or relocation of all or parts of a sidewalk cafe in emergency situations or for safety considerations without without notice.
Thank you.
Finally, I have Exhibit E, which is the owner's appeal, his letter, and he had the attachment of the mayor's letter along with it.
Thank you.
Do you have any objections to any of these exhibits?
Not at this time.
All right, without objection, I'll accept into evidence composite exhibits A, B, C, D, and E. Is there anything further from the city?
Nothing further except for a short closure.
The floor is yours.
Just have a few questions of Mr. Abenante. Mr. Abenante, looking at this composite photographs that the city attorney, assistant city attorney submitted, the individual sitting at that one table, is that you?
It's me.
Okay, you weren't, there was no service of any food or drinks
No.
there. And why did that have, if you look at the second picture, all the other tables have no chairs, as you indicated?
Yeah, once we had gotten the order that day, we had gotten it around 6 o'clock, roughly, and there was already people sitting there. So we had asked, do you want them to get up? And they're like, no, just let them finish. When they get up, you can. But in the meantime, we moved all the other chairs from everywhere else. It was the last table that was there, and then, and that was it. I mean, so, but they did say we could leave they didn't want to let the customers move until they were done eating.
And the other photograph that appears to be from the driver's seat of the police
Yeah,
vehicle
So the day after.
is the day after, and all the chairs, the tables are there, as you indicated, until you were able to find a location for them, which you did.
Correct.
Okay.
So the next day, there was no chairs, nobody was seating down, but the tables were there. I mean, we have like 13 tables. I don't have any place to put them. The officer did tell me that he wanted them out. We rented a truck. Within an hour, they were gone.
And were you in any, strike that, once the order was given, did you comply with the order?
We did.
And you found out the way to address that was to file an appeal, which you did?
Correct.
And that's what brings us here today? And I know you talked about it earlier in your opening, so to speak, but without the outdoor cafe, you're pretty much going to have to shutter your business because of the new normal of capacity.
Yes, I
Okay.
mean, yeah, we've only been open 6 days since this happened.
And this was all new to you, correct?
Correct.
And you had large crowds before at the restaurant for the months and years that you've been open, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you've been in business, your family and you, since 1976?
Correct.
And you have 4, I believe, restaurant properties in Palm Beach County, correct?
Correct.
And as you said, you employ about 60 to 70 people at this Clematis location.
Correct.
If this hearing officer was to rule in favor of setting aside the revocation and allowing you to put in the outdoor cafe again, would you make certain that you were to direct managers, staff, as to their duty to separate in compliance with the social distancing rules of the governor?
Yes.
Okay. Would you be willing to, even if necessary, hire a separate security person just for that fact?
Yes.
To do that as a job? Okay. Is there anything you'd like to tell the hearing officer that I didn't touch on?
Yeah, I mean, we are a restaurant. We're not a nightclub. We're not a bar. And basically, you know, we open for lunch. We have an event on Fridays. This happened at 1 and 2 in the morning. This is unprecedented times. I don't, you know, did the best I could. Obviously, it won't happen again. I know where we stand. The outdoor seating is a must right now. Without that, I don't know what to do. If you had come down there Friday night and to see our restaurant completely empty, and my staff in awe of what's going on, I just hope that what the city's doing is not trying to make us an example of the whole downtown area. You know, we're here to work together, not against each other. And it's you know, and it's tough times right now. And if taking these seats away from us right now would be catastrophic to our business.
And respectfully request that you allow and rescind the withdrawal of the Seat Cafe and allow it back with any conditions as you would feel comfortable with, such as an additional employee hired for a certain amount of time to make certain social distancing is complied with, or any type of violation fine for what they did. He's asking for forgiveness, and they are sorry. And again, it's unprecedented times. It's the new normal, as they say, and can rest assured that I won't be back, Mr. Abenante won't be back at any of their restaurants before this hearing
Thank you, sir.
officer. Thank you.
Just very briefly, if there ever was a threat to health, safety, life, and welfare, it is now. It is because of the pandemic. It's the reason why all these orders are coming out. And Mr. Abenante has showed that he was not in compliance, could not control his crowd, could not maintain that which the governor's orders and the Department of Business and Professional Regulation and the CDC have put out. Additionally, once he received the letter, he still was non-compliant with taking away the Sidewalk Cafe, regardless of whether patrons were out there or not, or whether he was the one reclining and enjoying a soda. I don't know who was. But the Sidewalk Cafe remained, even though he had been served with the letter. So at this time, the city would indicate that there's plenty of evidence to continue the rescind of the Sidewalk Cafe permit, and that would last until September 30th, and he could then apply again. Thank
May I
you.
reply briefly? As to the indication that he didn't comply because the tables were there, he did what he thought he had to do, was to remove the seating, the chairs. He indicated why the tables were not removed, and then ultimately when he found out they had to be removed as well, he did. To indicate he was sitting there having a soda, I don't think you could even see that in the picture. He's sitting it there, whether he's making a phone call or other. He's not disregarding what the officers did or what was told to him. He's a novice. He's not a law enforcement officer. He's not a lawyer. He did what he thought he had to do. He's not thumbing his nose at the governor's order and saying, I'm not complying with it. He was trying to once he received it.
This is definitely an unusual situation, and I think one of the difficulties about any kinds of hearings in these situations is trying to judge the equities of the situation in regards to the current circumstances in which we all live. So the question here for me is a little simpler, I think, than the ones that both sides have been arguing. And the question for me is, does the mayor have the authority to do what he did? I think the answer to that question is yes. Was the order he gave reasonable under the circumstances? Was it an abuse of discretion? Was it without foundation? And I don't think I can say any of those things. I think there is clearly evidence that there was behavior going on that was in violation of executive order and of the city ordinances. Hence, there's clearly a predicate and a foundation for his order. Based on that, I don't see how I would set aside the mayor's order. Would I put my judgment ahead of the mayor's about what the appropriate way to deal with this is? I wouldn't think so. But I'm willing to listen to either side try and explain to me why the scope of my decision should be beyond those two factors.
I don't believe that you're really second-guessing the mayor. I believe the mayor had every right to do, he's the mayor and has the authority to do so. The issue comes down to, as you indicated, an equity and a fairness. Does the punishment fit the crime? The punishment to put a place out of business for a violation of one time that now has been corrected and would be corrected. The appeal process is to, in which we're here, is to say that what was done, but we're here to say it won't happen again. We apologize, and if you need to fine us, but to put out of business a company that's been in since 1976, 44 years in Palm Beach County, is a little excessive based on these times. It's not where he can be in business without the cafe, as he indicated to you, the amount of people, the reservations that were lost, and the amount of customers that were lost. The mayor had the ability to do that right away to make certain that it was corrected. It is corrected now, and we're saying that it will stay corrected with the seating cafe. And I believe you can put any type of orders additional that you'd want to, with the ability to reinstate the sidewalk cafe, such as I indicated, they'd be willing to have an extra employee or security, somebody to maintain that. This isn't a repetitive violation.
Well, it's a unique situation. I don't think I'm going to take the invitation to create, terms by which one can operate in the city. I think that is well beyond the scope of my authority.
And I agree, but I'm saying the client is willing to do anything to stay in business that would we're here for the safety, welfare of the community and the people. He had one violation, one time. It's not, the way the city portrayed it was, he didn't take the seating away. Yeah, that's not accurate. It was portrayed, he followed the orders. He wasn't serving food.
Let me focus down on that, because here's the question for me. I don't think we're debating that so clearly we're not debating that the mayor had the authority to do what he did.
Obviously.
So the question is, if the mayor's order had said, you are closed for 3 days, then we probably wouldn't be here. So the complaint is the length of time, I guess, that the mayor has revoked, I guess.
I believe it's just revoked without a time limit. Yeah. It's been revoked now for coming up on, today's the 3rd, so about almost a week. I have no problem, putting it as a time served, so to speak.
Well, in light of the circumstances, we're talking about a handful of days since the mayor revoked it, right? Now, if we came and say this had been gone on for an extended period of time, then I think we might get into something that is unreasonable. And if the city wanted to keep it closed for an extended period of time, that might be seen as unreasonable. But it seems premature for me to rule on that. The mayor could decide since he hasn't put a time frame on it, the mayor could decide tomorrow that, that he's not gonna, that he's gonna end his order.
But there's no mechanism to have that done. That's why the appeal process is here, to get it before, a board or a hearing officer to make that decision. One day of being closed of business is substantial, 5 days, 7 days so far, but to September,
When does it become unreasonable?
One day.
our position is now. It has, and it's for one act that he has shown remorse. He's indicating it won't happen again, and would pay a fine or whatever the hearing officer finds relevant. but
Well, the
to
city
put him
hasn't,
out of business-
as far as I know, the city hasn't brought a code action to fine you, at least not that I'm aware of, and if they have, I don't want to know, it's not within the scope of this hearing, but that's a different issue. I don't know, I'll let if the city wants to chime in here with anything else.
Additionally, if I may,
Yeah.
there's other, not that you can say other places are doing it, but other restaurants are at full capacity at times as well. We have photos, but that really doesn't matter. It's like saying you can't get every speeder if you stop the person for speeding. So that argument isn't as valid, but just wanted to point out that it's not a habitual offender. It's not somebody who is saying, I'm not, just continued, like I believe in the other state of Texas, the lady that opened up the haircut place or hair salon and blatantly, and was put in jail for that. But they understand. They had a crowd that was substantially more than they figured was coming. They tried to handle it as best as he could. It was late. He had been working 6 days straight. We're looking for.
I think I understand the need. I mean, if I think I
We're a
understand the
we're a
argument that you're making.
restaurant.
The argument that you're making is that you're not contesting that what went on that night wasn't in violation of both the
Correct.
city and your argument is that the mayor's order is
Excessive.
excessive. So I understand that, and I understand your argument that you're attempting to comply and that you're seeking to comply. So I pretty much understand where you are. I just want to give the city the last word, if you have a word that you want to give.
Thank you. The city believes that it has clearly competent substantial evidence in support of the violations, in support of the revocation. We would just indicate that the mayor's letter on page 2 clearly indicated, I am ordering the immediate removal of the sidewalk cafe. I don't think it can be any clearer, yet it
Which
took,
exhibit am I in?
I'm sorry?
Which exhibit are we in?
That's going to be the composite exhibit A, the mayor's letter of May 28th. Should have been right on top.
Yep.
How it's written, Mr. Hearing Officer, is arguably, as the Madam City Attorney, Assistant City Attorney is indicating, it's based, you heard from Mr. Abenante that he thought it meant the way he did it. It was not like they were leaving it there to have more business, which is really what the purpose of the Sidewalk Cafe license revocation was, to stop any business from being out there, which it did. You would think the city would want to have businesses that have been here for quite a while to stay in business and employ the community. But to make an example out of Lenore's, based on one indiscretion, is a little egregious and excessive. It's not like I can go to the mayor and ask him to reinstate it, as your hearing officer was indicating, no time limit. If you want to put a time limit on it, 10 days, and then have it reinstated, and from there, I'd ask for something reasonable.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not going to rewrite. It seems to me the decision that I have to make is whether or not the order issued by the mayor is appropriate under the code, and I'm not going to rewrite it into ways that I mean, to some degree, maybe even I agree, with with some of the arguments that you're making, but ultimately, at the end of the day, the question for me is, was the order issued by the mayor in compliance with the code? Was there foundation for it? Was it an abuse of discretion? Was there evidence that would support the authority that the mayor, the reasonableness of the order under the circumstances? And I think the answer to that question is clearly yes. Would I necessarily, as mayor, have chosen to go down this path? I don't know. I'm not mayor. But I think it's, I am not willing to set aside the mayor's order at this time. I think there is plenty of predicate to support the issuance of his order. And I'm not going to set it aside. I am going to find that that there is foundation for the issuance of the order. And that's my ruling.
Thank you.
So,
You can't argue now,
so that's it?
for right now.
So basically, so that's pretty much it. So that's it. Just close the doors. That's it. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate that. All right.
That completes the hearing.
Being no further business before us, we have no further business, right? No, sir. All right, this meeting is hereby adjourned.